Yo, what is up, sexy beast? Crazy Rabbit here, and today we're gonna be the top 10 best explosive weapons for high rounds in Call of Duty Zombies history. So let's go ahead and get this shit started. So in this list, we got a couple rules. Number 1, no wander weapons allowed, would kind of be unfair. Number 2, we have to at least include 2 weapons from every single game, so 2 weapons from World War, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, and Black Ops 3. It mixes things up and also keeps it interesting. And last but not least, we are only strictly looking at primary weapons, so no grenades, no special grenades, or anything else like that. Primary weapons only. So with all that said and done, let's go ahead and get on to number 10. So unfortunately, taking the number 10 spot is going to be the fucking War Machine, or when upgraded to the Dystopic Demolisher. Now, Zombies isn't really known for its wide variety of explosive weapons, and saying that, the War Machine is bound to end up on a couple lists. And I definitely didn't want this thing anywhere near the number 1 spot, and I definitely think it deserves to be as far away from it as possible, so that's why it's at the number 10 spot. So the unupgraded War Machine is not powerful whatsoever, it's not really going to carry that much ammo, and its mobility is very low. But when you actually do upgrade it, it does get a couple buffs. It's going to get more ammo. It's actually going to carry 48 in stock now and 6 in the magazine, compared to its original 18 in stock and 6 in the magazine. It's going to have a higher mobility. It's going to be able to reload faster. The grenades are actually going to explode on impact instead of just bouncing around randomly. The only thing that keeps this War Machine down is its damage. It is very weak. It is not powerful whatsoever, and on high rounds, this thing is not going to be able to get any kills. And also, you have to deal with the regular War Machine before you can actually upgrade it. There's just a lot of cons to this weapon, and I would not recommend it whatsoever. But sadly, due to the lack of explosive weapons in Zombies, it deserves the number 10 spot. So taking the number 9 spot is going to be the C3000 Biatches. Now this is the upgraded version of the World War Colt, and I remember back in the day when people first figured out you could upgrade your M1911, everyone freaked out. Every time you join a lobby, you'd hear at least 2 people say, holy shit, hold on to your M1911 and upgrade it, it becomes a badass. Now back in World War, high rounds weren't really a thing yet. You got to round 30, you were considered a god, and of course the C3000 Biatches is still going to do some work on round 30. Now once you kind of get to the 40s and 50s, it falls off, but up until then, it's still a really good weapon, and everyone thought this thing was like a god weapon, and everyone would constantly tell you to upgrade it. But once we started going to higher and higher rounds, we figured out this thing isn't really that good on high rounds. It's decent, but not the best. The thing that really bothers me about it is its lack of damage. It's not really as strong as the ray gun, really not even close, and also its fire rate. Its fire rate is very slow, but everything else is pretty good about it. It carries a decent amount of ammo, I would say like on par with every other explosive weapon. It's going to carry 40 in stock and 6 in its magazine, and its mobility is going to be extremely high. Duh, it's a pistol, but doesn't really do that much damage, and its fire rate is very slow. And also, there's no PhD in World War, so you can always hurt yourself with explosive damage, and also, in World War, those dogs were really fast and really glitchy, so using this weapon and having dogs on the map was not a really good combination, and I would not really recommend this thing for high rounds, but it's definitely better than the War Machine. Alright, and taking the number 8 spot is going to be the M7 grenade launcher, or an upgrade to the Imploder. Now this grenade launcher you actually do get from the box, and it comes attached to the M1 Garand, and this thing is actually a little bit more powerful than the M1911. So unupgraded wise, it's going to carry 1 in its magazine thingy and 20 in stock. It's going to have a pretty high mobility, not the best, but not the worst. And when you actually do upgrade this thing, it's going to get a huge ammo boost. It's going to carry 40 in stock and 3 in its magazine, and it's actually going to be able to reload all 3 of those rounds at once, and it does become fully automatic and does get a pretty decent damage boost. So this thing on high rounds is going to be able to get you a lot of kills, and plus you have a M1 Garand attached to it, so you also have an M1 Garand, which on high rounds is still a pretty decent weapon. So overall, the Imploder is an okay weapon. Would I recommend using it on high rounds? Probably up until like the 30s and 40s. After that, I would definitely switch out and go with something else. But up until then, this thing's actually going to be able to do some work. You basically have 2 weapons in one, and that's what I think it really has going for it. You have a lot of killing potential with this weapon, and that's why it deserves the number 8 spot. Alright, and taking the number 7 spot is going to be the M72 Law, or an upgrade to the M72 Anarchy. Now this thing is actually pretty powerful and a pretty decent weapon once you actually get it upgraded. Unupgraded wise, it's It's going to be a little bit under the ray gun. I'm kind of going to be using the ray gun as like a benchmark. When it comes to ammo, it's going to carry 20 in stock and 1 in its magazine, and its mobility is going to be very low. But when you actually do get this thing upgraded, it becomes a badass. It's going to get a damage buff and an ammo buff. It's going to carry 40 in stock and 10 in its magazine, and you're also going to get a mobility buff. You're not really going to be as slow. You can reload all your shots at once, and you also don't need to ADS when you actually want to fire. This thing becomes a pretty decent weapon, and on round 50, I would say you could probably take out like 1 train of 24, and that's really good for Black Ops 1. When you look at all the other Black Ops 1 weapons, you can maybe get like 5 kills with some of them, but with this thing, you can actually get 24. So So this weapon is definitely one of the best ones in Black Ops 1 zombies, especially when you have PhD Flopper. You don't have to worry about hurting yourself. You can just fire this thing wherever the hell you want and not have to worry about injuring yourself whatsoever. And this thing is actually pretty decent against some of the boss zombies. When you want to use this thing against George, it's not really going to be the fastest weapon, but it does help. When you want to use this thing against the astronaut, it's going to be able to take him out really quick. So the M72 Law is a really good weapon in Black Ops 1 and definitely one that I would recommend. Alright, and taking the number 6 spot, I would definitely say is the Black Ops 2 version of the Law, the RPG, or an upgrade to the rocket-propelled Grievance. Now this thing barely beat the Law. I really had to go back and watch all the footage and see which one was doing a little bit better, and sadly the RPG just barely won. Unupgraded wise, it's not really going to be anything too special. It's going to be very similar to the Law, only carrying 20 in stock and 1 in its magazine, and also having a very low mobility. But when you actually do upgrade this thing, it does get a couple buffs. It gets a damage buff, gets an ammo buff, gets a mobility buff, gets everything buffed. It just basically almost doubled everything it did as the RPG, and on round 50, I would say you could probably take out 1.5 to 2 trains of 24, really all depending on how you played your cards. So like I said, just a little bit better than the M72 Law. I almost put the Law here because you have PhD Flopper, but I decided that as long as you're careful, you could probably get a lot more kills with the RPG than you actually could with the Law. Even though the Law does have PhD Flopper and you can kind of just be willy-nilly with it, you're going to be able to get a couple more kills with the RPG, and that's ultimately why I decided to put it at the number 6 spot. Alright, and taking the number 5 spot is going to be the Crossbow or the Awful Lawton. Now this thing, when you actually fully upgrade it, is actually pretty powerful. I really kind of didn't think it would be as powerful as it was, but the thing that really just hinders it is its lack of ammo. Unupgraded wise and also upgraded wise, it's only going to carry 12 in stock and 1 in the magazine, so you only get 13 shots total. Now unupgraded wise, this thing's a piece of shit, don't worry about it. Upgraded wise is why it deserves the number 5 spot. It basically becomes like a monkey bomb. When you shoot it, the crossbow bolt is going to go out and act like a monkey bomb. All the zombies will be attracted to it. Now it really doesn't do enough damage to kill them on high rounds, but it's a very useful tool to help you out. If you need to revive someone, you need to go do something, you need to try to get away, you need to save yourself, just shoot this thing and you're going to be good. And that's why it's at the number 5 spot. It's not at the number 10 spot, it's not at the number 1 spot. It's not going to be getting you a lot of kills, or a kill if any, but it's also not going to be completely useless like the War Machine or anything like that. So that's why I definitely think it deserves to be in the middle. It's a very useful tool for high rounds for certain maps, especially on 5. This is like your go-to weapon. You definitely want this thing on 5. But on a lot of other maps, this thing could just be completely useless. So that is why I put the Crossbow at this spot. Alright, and taking the number 4 spot is going to be the Meat Wagon. Now the Meat Wagon is the Bloodhound upgraded, and honestly in this position you could either put the Meat Wagon or Death and Taxes, whichever one you prefer. I put the Meat Wagon because it carries a little bit more ammo than Death and Taxes, but in all honesty, you could flip-flop either one. It really all comes down to personal preference, so that's why I put these ones here. Now these things actually carry a pretty decent amount of ammo for an explosive weapon. When you actually have the Meat Wagon, it's going to carry 50 in stock, and also 8 and 8 in each of the magazines. It's going to do a pretty decent amount of damage. It's not the most powerful weapon, but you have a fast fire rate and a lot of ammo, so you're going to be able to get a lot of kills. And I would definitely say you could probably take out like 2 trains of 24 as long as you're really careful. Like 1 to 2 trains. Really all depends on how good you are with getting all the zombies rounded up and how good your accuracy is. If your accuracy is poor, you'll probably get like 1 train 24, but if you're pretty good at conserving your ammo, pretty good at knowing when to shoot, pretty good at training up zombies, you could probably kill 2 trains of 24, and especially if you have the Gobble Gum that negates explosive damage, this thing actually becomes pretty powerful, so that's why I put it at the number 4 spot. Alright, and taking the number 3 spot is going to be the OG Black Ops 1 Mustang and Sally. I love Mustang and Sally. It's definitely one of my all-time favorite weapons in zombies. These things are fucking badass. They're strong as hell. They're a really good weapon, especially in Black Ops 1. You could put the Black Ops 2 or Black Ops 3 version here, but I decided to go with the Black Ops 1 version because you got PhD Flopper, and you don't have to worry about no splash damage or anything like that. You don't have to worry about the consequences of shooting a grenade at your feet. You don't gotta worry about that. You can shoot these things wherever the hell you want, and they're gonna get some kills. So on high rounds, I would say it's gonna behave very similar, if not the exact same, as the Bloodhound. The only reason these are at number 3 is because you got PhD Flopper. That is the only reason Mustang and Sally is at the number 3 spot and not tied for number 4, is PhD. Now you could always make the argument for the Meat Wagon that does have that Gobble Gum, but that Gobble Gum only lasts a couple rounds. PhD Flopper lasts forever. But enough talking about that. Mustang and Sally is going to carry 50 in stock and 6 and 6 in the magazine, so it's going to carry a pretty decent amount of ammo, almost similar to the Meat Wagon, just 4 shots less. and it's going to have a pretty decent fire rate, a high mobility, a high reload speed. It's basically just going to be a fast shooting explosive damage weapon, and definitely one of the all-time greatest explosive weapons in Call of Duty Zombies history, so that's why it's at the number 3 spot. Alright, and taking the number 2 spot is going to be the XM53 Orbit, upgraded to a name that I cannot pronounce. Now this thing is very, very powerful. I believe it's the most powerful explosive weapon in Call of Duty Zombies history. It can almost basically double what the ray gun can actually do, but the only reason it's at number 2 and not number 1 is because of its ammo. When you actually do upgrade this thing, it gets one more shot. It gets more powerful, it becomes fully automatic, but it only carries an extra shot. So unupgraded wise, it carries 20 in stock and 1 in its magazine, and holy shit, call the presses, when you actually upgrade it, it carries 20 in stock and 2 in its magazine. Its mobility does increase and becomes fully automatic, and it does a lot more damage, but it only gets 1 extra shot. So it is really powerful. On high rounds, you will be able to get a lot of kills, but you could get more if it carried more ammo. So like a lot of other weapons on this list have carried about 40 to 50 shots. This thing only carries about 20. You'll definitely be able to tell why it's not at the number 1 spot when I actually get onto the number 1 weapon, but man, I had to really sit down to think if this thing even deserves the number 2 spot and not like the number 3 or 4 spot. But after a lot of hard thinking, I ultimately decided that, yeah, I think the damage does outweigh the lack of ammo, so it definitely deserves to be where it's at. You're going to be able to get some kills on high rounds. It's going to be able to last you for a pretty long time. Its splash damage isn't really so bad. It's not as bad as some of these other weapons, so really the threat of downing yourself isn't as high with a lot of other explosive weapons. But goddamn, man, I just wish this thing carried more ammo because it would be an outstanding weapon. Alright, and taking the number 1 spot is going to be the L4 Siege, or an upgrade to the L8 Circus. Now this thing carries a lot of ammo. Even unupgraded, it carries more ammo than almost every single weapon on this list. It's going to carry 60 in stock and 4 in its magazine. And that's just unupgraded wise. When you actually upgrade this thing, it's going to carry 80 in stock and 8 in its magazine. That's getting into shotgun territory with levels of ammo. This thing's going to be a beast when it comes to ammo. Damage wise, it's going to be a little bit less than the XM53, so it's really not going to be as powerful as that. On high rounds, you will definitely be able to get a lot of kills with the L4 Siege, and this thing is really, really good against boss zombies. You use this thing against Nikolai or anything like that, you're going to tear him a new asshole. You're going to kill him very, very quick. And just like a lot of other weapons on this list, its mobility goes from low to high. You get a faster reload speed, you get a faster fire rate. Overall, the L4 Siege, or I should say L8 Circus, is an amazing weapon, and in my opinion, definitely the best explosive weapon we have ever seen in Call of Duty Zombies history, and I would love to see it return. It's a pretty fun weapon to use. Imagine having this and PhD Flopper, you would be unstoppable. So that is going to be the end of this top 10. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. You might have a completely different list, which is totally fine. Everyone plays zombies differently, and this list was based off of how I play. So your top 10 might look completely different from mine, which is totally fine. And real quick, I want to say special thanks to my Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome. My Patreon supporters get a lot of cool stuff. Go ahead and check out that link in the description if you are curious. They get a lot of things like videos early, extra content, and so much more. So go ahead and check that link in the description out if you are curious. And also go ahead and follow me on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and Discord. All those links will be in the description. Call of Duty World War II is getting ready to come out, and we're about ready to get some Nazi zombies. Of course, I'm going to be covering it. I'm very curious to see what the game's like and what all is going to be happening. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Hopefully you guys have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.